Happy Wednesday! This is Mrs. Marks, and I am excited to share with you how media will work while we are distance learning. Each week, there will be a home media lesson, YouTube video posted on Wednesday, and cool tech links for you to try. I'm going to read the last 5 chapters of our One School, One Book, The Adventures of a South Pole Pig. Today, we will start with chapter 34. Then I will ask a trivia question, and finally, we'll learn how to draw Flora from the illustrator Jennifer Black Reinhardt. Please pause this video, find your copy of The Adventures of a South Pole Pig, and read along. Chapter 34. The next morning, it wasn't the cold or the hunger pains that woke Flora. It wasn't a soft meow or the delicious smell of food in her dreams. It was a big sloppy lick from a big sloppy tongue. "Oscar!" Flora squealed and jumped up in a spray of powder. Sophia yowled in surprise at being awoken this way, but she soon joined Flora in dancing around their friend. Alaric stood smiling a short way off. He was still hooked to the sled, while Oscar's line lay in the snow. "I knew you would find us," shouted Flora. "I knew you'd come back the same way you went." Oscar's wagging tail flew up. "What are you two doing here?" "Looking for you!" Sophia ran with her tail high to Alaric and climbed his legs until she was in his arms. Alaric laughed. "We were afraid you wouldn't be strong enough to make it." Flora bumped Oscar's chin with her nose and got another lick in return. "You don't know how tough an old dog can be," said Oscar, but Flora thought he looked run down, exhausted even. "We wanted to help you get the food, but we lost your tracks," said Flora. "Well, it's a good thing you left some tracks yourself, because otherwise we would have passed you right by. We started back only today, and the sled is a lot heavier." Flora held her breath for a moment. "You found the food?" She looked over at the sled, and her mouth began watering. Alaric had unwrapped the load and was giving Sophia something. Then he waded through the deep snow to deliver 2 frozen fish to Flora. Those 2 fish were the sweetest things she could ever remember tasting. Alaric stayed close while she ate, and when she was done, bent down and hugged her. "You are one crazy pig, you know that? You disappear and then show up at the wildest times. What are you doing out here?" Alaric walked back to the sled, tossed Flora 2 more fish, and then whistled. Oscar trudged his way to his pull line. Alaric hooked him to his harness, and they started out, the boy and dog side by side, and the sled behind with Sophia on top. They could only creep. Flora watched for another moment and then plowed through the snow until she was out in front of Oscar. The food had revived her, and she was determined to be helpful. She was going to make a path for him. She knew getting through the deep powder would be even harder for Oscar with the heavy load. Every step she took packed the snow down and made it easier for her friend. Knowing this made the work easier for her too. But being homemade, the sled didn't slide as smoothly as it should have. Sometimes Alaric stashed his pull line on the food box and dropped behind to push. When they finally passed the stretch of deep drifts and were back on more solid snow, the company stopped for a breather. Flora made her way to where Sophia had hopped down and was watching over Oscar. He hadn't bothered to wait for Alaric to take off the rope before collapsing. Flora was alarmed to hear the rattling in his throat again. "Oscar, you don't sound so good," she said. He didn't answer. He was too busy trying to catch his breath. Alaric knelt by the dog's side. "Here you go, boy. Let's get that line off you." He unfastened the rope and rubbed Oscar's side for a few minutes. Then he went to check on the food boxes. "Pulling is like medicine," panted Oscar. "I think you might be getting a little too much medicine on this trip," said Sophia. "Can't you take it easier?" Oscar didn't say more, and all too soon, Alaric came back to hook him up. The dog struggled to his feet. Before long, they came to the field of ice crystals. Flora hadn't noticed the leather booties on Oscar's feet until now, but there they were, just as Sophia had said. The icy crust that supported the crystals was thick enough to hold Flora and Oscar's weight, but the much heavier sled kept breaking through, causing the runners to end up stuck in the soft snow underneath. When this happened, Alaric had to yank the sled back through the crust and find a new path. They would travel only a short distance before the sled would break through again. There was nothing Flora could do to help. Finally, Alaric leaned against the sled. Night's coming anyway. Stumbling forward, he unhooked Oscar, who just lay on the snow with his sides heaving. Alaric brought out a tent and a small stove. Soon, supper was cooking, and Flora could almost taste the warm fish stew. It might have been a happy time, Flora thought. They were rescuers coming back to save the day. They had enough to eat, but there was no cheer in the small camp. Flora and Sophia stayed near Oscar, who didn't move from where he had dropped. When supper was ready, he wouldn't eat. His throat was still rattling. "Come on, boy, I'm dependent on you," Alaric coaxed. "You're my engine." "I didn't work you too hard, did I?" When it was time to sleep, Alaric carried him inside the tent. Flora poked her head through the opening. The boy had made a bed of blankets for Oscar next to his own bed. "You'll feel better tomorrow, buddy," he said. Sophia stepped into the tent and curled up at the dog's side. Alaric crawled inside his blankets and patted the space on the other side of him. "Come on, pig. There's room for everyone, and this tent needs all the body heat it can get." Flora lay beside Alaric, thinking about the captain. How was he doing without the body heat of a pig to warm him? Then she listened to the rough sound of Oscar's breathing. A long time. Trivia time! The question for today is, how was Flora awakened in the snow cave? Please send your answer to marks.jan@brevardschools.org. I'm so glad we're reading this book together. Flora and her friends are going through some hard times. They're working together and persevering to get through it. We can relate. We're going through some hard times of our own right now, but I know we also, working together, we will get through it. The illustrator of our story, Jennifer Black Reinhardt, created a video to teach us how to draw Flora. Gather your art supplies and have fun.
Hi everybody, welcome to my studio. Today I'm going to show you how to draw Flora the pig's face from The Adventures of a South Pole Pig, which is a wonderful chapter book written by Chris Kurtz and illustrated by me, Jennifer Black Reinhardt. Thanks for stopping by today. I usually draw with a very, very, very tiny pointed pen, but today I'm going to draw with a thicker one so you can see a little better. Now Flora is basically made up of shapes, and to draw her I would start with her piggy snout. So let's start with a pig snout, shaped something like that. And the piggy snout has two nostrils, something like that. Now to show that the pig snout's got a little depth to it, let's put a line like that. It shows that it's sticking out a little forward. Now we will make the rest of her head. That's where I want her forehead to be. Now let's make an ear. Now the fun thing with Flora's ears is they're all crooked and hairy, and they kind of flop or whatever you want to make them do. And the ear over here. And then the outside of her face. Something like that. Now, she needs some eyes. And she needs a mouth. Now, Here, Flora's mouth is pretty much closed, right? But if we give her a little bit of a mouth shaped like this, it kind of looks like Flora might be saying something to us, right? And then that makes us real illustrators, because what we can do is we can make her say what we think she was saying. So let's try this. Hi, everyone. Hope you like the book. And now we've made an illustration because it has words and a picture. Now to color Flora, you can use anything you want, and you could have used anything you wanted to outline her too. I use pens, but you can use a pencil, you can use crayon, you can use colored pencil. But what I usually do is use watercolor paints. So I'm going to do that, but if you have crayons or you have markers or whatever you have, just do whatever you want. The floor is kind of a beigey color. Like that. I have my watercolor paints over here. I don't know if they're showing up or not. And I think of pigs as kind of having a lot of pink too. So I like to make her have some pink on her. Doesn't matter if you stay in the lines, doesn't matter if you color every little bit. And then I have this nice pink over here that I like. So I'm going to give her some big pinky cheeks. Little pink inside her ears. Around her nose. Oops, that was a little too much. Whoops. That's a technical way to fix that. Usually I'm holding a paper towel. I didn't have one there. I have a little too much color on my brush for my liking. I kind of like her like that. What do you think? I usually do a little shading, which you can do only if you want to. If I put this blue color on this pink color, I like the color that it makes because it makes a purple color. Well, I think that's about it, guys. I hope that helped. I hope you like drawing Flora, and I hope that if you do, you would email me at jbreinhardt.com. Email me your pictures. I would love to see them, and maybe I can even post them. Take care. Thanks a lot for coming to my studio today.
Here is my drawing of Flora. Please post your drawing to the Atlantis Media Center Google Classroom. Thanks for tuning in today. Be safe and keep reading.